Y para continuar con el tema del trabajo, saludamos a Wayne Berger, el CEO de IWG Americas, Estados Unidos, Canadá y América Latina, quien nos hablará sobre el impacto del trabajo flexible. La entrevista con Viridiana Mendoza, editora de reportes especiales de Forbes México.
¿Qué tal amigos de Forbes México? Yo soy Viridiana Mendoza, editora de reportes especiales y les saludo desde la plataforma Forbes Conecta. Hoy le doy la bienvenida a Wayne Berger, CEO de IWG Americas, Estados Unidos, Canadá y América Latina, quien nos hablará sobre el trabajo híbrido. Esta tendencia que está cobrando mucha fuerza a raíz de la situación que estamos viviendo. Todo esto en el marco de nuestro foro Forbes Economía y Negocios, el nuevo escenario económico. Now I want to switch to English. Wayne, welcome and thank you for being here at this important summit for us. I would like to start this conversation by asking you about hybrid work. What does it mean in this new way of working?
I'm so glad you asked. Thank you, Vidya. And it's a pleasure to be here once again with you and all of our viewers. So hybrid work, put very simply, is basically a new way of working that will become the norm. Hybrid working and flexible working means people, workers around the world will have the ability to be able to work from multiple places at various times, not just every week, but frankly, every day and hours throughout the day. We're moving to a world where more and more workers, as a matter of fact, probably close to 70 to 80% of all knowledge-based workers will have the ability to work in a hybrid fashion, which means they're going to be able to structure their day and where they choose to work based on how they can be most productive with what is required of them throughout that day. Complete flexibility.
And this is a wonderful game changer for working reality. So as a result of the pandemic, companies are doubling down on hybrid work as part of a long-term strategy, right? How much is this changing for IWG business strategy?
Well, it's actually made some fairly significant changes. Number one, it's interesting. If you look prior to what's taken place over the last 18 months, hybrid working was already growing at such a dramatic pace. And frankly, IWG and flexible workspace was growing at an accelerated pace. Flexible working was actually growing across most major international markets at higher absorption rates than traditional commercial real estate absorption rates. So you can see the demand was absolutely accelerating. And supply was, when you think about it overall, was still actually quite low. Flexible workspace today globally only represents roughly about 2 to 3% of all commercial real estate portfolios. So now fast forward 18 months over a period of time where more and more companies are moving to hybrid working, it's really helped us continue to focus on our core strategies. So the first thing that we've been doing is continuing to accelerate our network around the world. So today we operate across 3,600 locations, 123 countries, 1,200 cities around the world, very significant presence here in the Americas, including Latin America, across 22 countries in Latin America. We've recognized that as more and more companies are bringing their workers back to what is known as a workspace, more of those companies are bringing hybrid working and flexible working in, which means those companies are reassessing their current real estate portfolios. Many companies are looking to downsize their commercial real estate portfolio and add more great workspace locations for their workers to gather and congregate in. So giving their workers access to more locations, more geography, and more places to be able to work every single day, whether it's meeting with people physically or virtually. So for IWG, we've had to continue to accelerate our growth across our network. We're entering more markets, and we're also opening more locations in the markets that we operate in. So that's been a major focus. We want to continue to grow from 3,600 locations to over 30,000 locations globally. Now, a big structural change that we've been incorporating in is actually shifting how we grow. So traditionally, this business is capital intensive. But what's interesting is landlords are also recognizing that flexible workspace needs to be part of their real estate portfolio if they want to attract and retain great primary tenants. Every building needs to have a percentage of their building allocated to flex. So companies can actually flex up and down in terms of size based on what's happening in their business. So we're seeing more opportunities with landlords to partner together to open up Regus locations, Spaces locations, HQ locations across their portfolio in more of a partnership agreement. So less capital intensive for IWG, more opportunity for the landlord to monetize that space and earn greater returns than what they would have earned just on a traditional real estate transaction or a traditional lease. So that's been a big focus of ours is increasing our landlord partnerships around the world and certainly in Latin America. Secondly, we've been greatly accelerating around our franchise offering. So we've been introducing more and more franchise partners and more joint ventures around the world. And of course, in Latin America, certainly. We've opened up our first franchise location in the United States very recently. Our pipeline of franchising continues to grow, pushing 1,000 locations across our network. So more organizations and investors are recognizing the value in flex, and they want to partner with, frankly, the world's best operator, being IWG, because the returns are very strong in a market that has high growth opportunities. So we're growing from a franchise perspective as well, which helps us add more locations, more brands, and more opportunities. So that's been a big focus. And then the third element in growth has been in takeovers and acquisitions. We've seen a tremendous opportunity for rationalization in the industry. Flex grew dramatically from 2015 to 2020. Some operators were successful, some struggled. And then you overlay in the last 18 months, this has presented great opportunities to consolidate the industry and be able to grow through acquisitions and takeovers. So we've recently added new brands to our network. Wonderful brands like The Wing, for example, which is a female-centric professional organization, which we're growing from a United States footprint to now a global footprint because we believe the opportunity is tremendous. We've also added other brands like Clubhouse and other brands as well. So we're now upwards of 25 brands globally to provide the best day at work for workers around the world.
It's pretty interesting how this reality change, it's motivating new change in business and in big business as IWG. I would like to ask you, Wayne, in which way the quotidianity for the employees are going to change? I mean, we could think that hybrid work is equally to less office space. So you're telling us that it's not the reality. The reality is that you're planning to have more workspace. So tell us a little bit about how this new workspace is going to work.
Well, I'll mention, Vidya, I think what's really incredible is I believe that what we are entering into in 2021 and 2022 is one of the best renaissances that we've ever seen for workers. Because what's happening now is work has become purpose-driven. Gone are the days where people will get in their cars or get onto mass transit, buses, metros, et cetera, to travel at times hours each way to go to an office, to sit in a cubicle 5 days a week, regardless of what they had to accomplish that day. Those days are over. Flexible working is here to stay. And that presents such incredible benefits for workers. Because what workers have discovered is, one, they're able to balance their days differently now. So for example, every worker has different things they need to accomplish every day. Workers need time where they need to keep their head down and work privately to work through contracts or important financial elements or just things that require their full focus. And then there's time where people need to gather together to collaborate and innovate and be able to work in their teams physically. Well, then there's times where they can work with their teams virtually in a digital setting. And then there's times they need to be with clients or have a one-on-one meeting with their boss or supervisor or teammates. So all those different work elements and work styles used to be fit into one centric location. Those days are over. So what's going to happen now moving forward, which is brilliant for people, is people are going to get more time back. They're going to be more productive because they can schedule their days based on what they need to do that day, and also schedule their hours throughout the day in terms of what's their focus. And then they can overlay onto that working from different locations. That could be from home. It could be from a traditional corporate office, or it could be from a flexible workspace or co-working location like a Regis or a Spaces or another operator. Because what's happening now is people want the ability to be able to eliminate the hours they spend commuting, which is completely unproductive and frankly, very poor for the environment. And they're able to get more time to focus on their job. They're able to accomplish more tasks and be greater results oriented. And then on top of all that, they get to spend more time with their family, their friends, their extracurricular elements outside of life, outside of work life, which frankly makes them better workers and more engaged workers. So we're entering a period of time where it's a complete renaissance. What is going to happen moving forward is that people will choose where they want to work as simply as accessing an app on their phone, and we're closer to home, closer to their clients, or go into a traditional corporate headquarters maybe once or twice a week. But when they go, it's not going to be about setting up their laptop and their phone and just getting to work. It's going to be higher destination value. So they're going to go where they can collaborate and innovate and meet with people and build that culture. So I think the really cool thing that we're seeing moving forward is this complete shift away from always being workplace centric and being more ubiquitous, where people can choose where they need to work and when they need to work from a really powerful environment. So that's a critical element for us, where we need to provide digital solutions, virtual solutions, a whole host of marketplace solutions for people to be able to work comfortably, and then also give people the ability to work within a 5 to a 15-minute walk from wherever they need to be throughout the day from any global location.
That's great, and it sounds very exciting for employees and for enterprises, because it will allow them to change all the ideas related with the work time and with productivity.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So what we're seeing right now, and I'll give you a few examples. Companies like Standard Chartered, NTT, Dell, and many other enterprise customers have shifted how they're asking their employees to come back to work. So what companies like Standard Chartered and NTT have done is they're giving all of their employees access to what we call our enterprise membership, for example, where those employees, and just give you an idea, those two companies have roughly about 300,000 employees. Those employees have access to any of our 3,600 locations around the world. So if they choose to work from any of our 12 locations in Bogota, any of our 30 locations in Mexico, across any city, any neighborhood, they're able to access all the club spaces, all the common spaces, offices, meeting rooms, and also have access to our full suite of services and teams to support their business and support their needs. It's complete flexibility. And that's what we're seeing companies move towards, is giving their employees choice so they can work better. To give you an idea, in the first half of this year, we've signed 2 million memberships for enterprise organizations. And over 70% of enterprise organizations have instituted flexible workspace philosophies for their team members moving forward. And that's not temporary, that's permanent. Because what that also gives companies is the ability to rationalize their own real estate portfolio. if you think about cost for an organization, the second highest cost on a company balance sheet outside of people, human capital, human resources, is real estate. And when that real estate is completely inflexible, and frankly, when it sits empty or underutilized, it's a sunken cost that's very capital intensive. Companies now are rationalizing their real estate portfolio. They're investing money in less space to make it more desirable for people to return to when they come back occasionally, not every day. Companies have moved away from dedicated offices to hoteling and more common spaces and collaborative spaces, spaces that people want to go to versus need to go to. And they're reducing their costs, because what we've discovered and what enterprise companies are discovering is by moving to a flexible model, they're reducing their costs by upwards of 50% alone on their capital investment when it comes to leases. And leases are a complete liability on balance sheet, whereas a rental agreement is not a dedicated liability. So it helps their performance, it helps their financial EBITDA, and it gives their employees choice, which is what employees want today. Companies will absolutely struggle with attracting and retaining top talent if they do not incorporate a flexible working model. Because remember, 7 to 8 out of every 10 companies globally are moving to flex. So those final 20% that are draconian, that have not moved, and they're expecting everybody to come back to an office, they're going to lose great talent and they're going to struggle to attract talent. So there's a financial gain, there's a cultural gain, and then employees have a chance to work the way they want to work and be more productive and happier, which is really powerful.
It's amazing. I think it's a great opportunity for companies and for employees to have a revolution in the way of working. And to finish, Wayne, I would like to ask you for some advices for companies that are not sure about hybrid work, what they have to look for when they are considering like a flexible workspace. What is depending on the industry? What do you recommend to search about, and what are the key factors that ensure the success in a hybrid work strategy?
It's a great question, and I'm thrilled you asked. I would kick off with, I think, the most critical element, and the most critical element and the most valuable element. And that is, companies and frankly, people need to trust and empower their employees, right? The biggest thing that I see every day from organizations that are trying to institute a hybrid or flexible working philosophy and strategy in their company is trying to manage how much trust they provide employees. We need to trust our people. If we've taken the time to recruit, to hire, and entrust the best people to lead and help support our goals as an organization, you've got to take the opportunity to give them accountability and give them responsibility. And that comes with trust, right? So number one, companies need to trust that their employees are going to do the right thing, right? That's the critical piece. Secondly is communication. Take the time before you institute your hybrid working philosophy, take the time to do some research around what other companies are doing and why they're instituting their hybrid policy. Because we're seeing a whole range of policies. We're seeing some companies say, from now on, we're completely flexible and people can come to our office when they want to arrive, but they're welcome to work from wherever they feel they can be most productive. So complete 100% flexibility, in which they're from now on digital by default or digitally nomadic versus being centric. Some companies are moving to a place where they're going to allow employees to work 40% of their work week, or choose 1 or 2 days out of the week, which they can work from a remote place or work from the office. So you see this whole range. The best feedback I can give is trust employees and then communicate with their employees. Ask their employees what makes most sense for them in order to accomplish their tasks and their job responsibilities, how they can overachieve, and then also what makes most sense. So that's a key element as well. So that way you can solicit feedback from your employees and then come up with the right plan that makes sense for management to achieve the company's goals and for employees. Trust and communication are key. From there, take the time, if you want to introduce a flexible working model, take the time to investigate and research. It can be as simple as do a search and find the local locations in your market, right? So as I mentioned before, we operate in 22 countries in Latin America. You can find a co-working location close to either your office or where people live, right? It's a good opportunity to heat map where your employees live with where you'd like them to travel to. And as I mentioned earlier, we're big believers in the 15-minute city. The ability for employees to walk or bike 5 to 15 minutes and leave their house to go to a great professional working environment. Now, what's interesting is flexible working does not mean working from home. Most workers do not want to work from home full-time. Less than 20% of workers actually want to be at home all the time. We miss each other. We miss social interaction. So the ability to work from a productive work environment is really powerful because it gives them the opportunity to work with their team members or other companies and have that social and professional interaction, grow their networks, and then also work really well. So when you're touring a flexible workspace, have the opportunity to tour and check out the services and the amenities are available. So for example, at IWG, in each one of our spaces and Regis locations, we try to offer 8 to 10 different working environments, whether it's working in a cafe, working in a private office, in a team setting, a collaboration space, taking meetings out of phone booths, private team rooms, private offices, right up to rooftop patios. The ability to work from multiple different ways and different avenues throughout the day. So tour your local locations, get an idea of the services that are offered, and then also see how much flexibility you have, because flexibility is really key. And then from there, test a great model and be aggressive in the model. What I'm finding is a lot of companies are being too conservative. Be aggressive and progressive in your model and see how it's working for your employees and for your leaders, and find a way to come up with a great plan moving forward. Because as I mentioned earlier, companies are moving to flex. So those companies that choose not to, or that are too reactive, are going to struggle in attracting or training great talent. And the companies that are most progressive are going to have the best talented employees that are also going to stay and thrive in the organization.
Great, Wayne. Well, we hope we can learn more about IWG in the future. And I have to thank you so much for being here with us today. It has been a very productive conversation in terms of what we can expect for the future in terms of hybrid work. And I have to tell you that this is one of the most entertainment interviews in terms of this topic, because the way in which you explain the benefits for enterprises is very clear, because you just tell us that office space is 50% of the operational cost for enterprises. So they have to think about what are they doing with the money, right? So thank you so much for being here with us. Muchas gracias, amigos, por acompañarnos en esta conversación. Como ustedes ven, pues las formas de trabajar hacia el futuro son impresionantes y nos ofrecen muchísimas oportunidades. Gracias a Wayne Berger, CEO de IWG Americas, Estados Unidos, Canadá y América Latina, por habernos acompañado en esta entrevista. Los invitamos a que sigan conectados en nuestro foro Forbes Economía y Negocios 2021, el nuevo escenario económico. Hasta la próxima. Thank you, Wayne.
Muchas gracias. Thank you.